One of the biggest advantages of losing weight with intermittent fasting is that it's just so flexible, it can fit in almost any life. In my 80-pound weight loss journey with intermittent fasting, I had to learn how to be flexible because I learned quickly that life gets in the way. One way intermittent fasting is very flexible is that you can eat whatever you want with intermittent fasting. You don't have to limit certain food groups or anything like that. You can just eat whatever you're already eating and use intermittent fasting to help you eat the right amount. And so that's really flexible. It means that no matter where you are, what kind of party you're at or what people are serving at a place, you can still eat it and still lose weight. And so right out the bat, it's just a more flexible kind of a plan because generally speaking, when you're on a more restrictive kind of, you have to eat certain foods and things like that, that can really throw you off. But intermittent fasting makes it so that you can go into a lot of different situations and still be on plan. But that being said, there are going to be times and situations you're going to find yourself in where you're going to need to learn how to be flexible even with intermittent fasting. So what I found was there were a couple of scenarios that were really common that I found myself in, and I was, a perfectionist in the beginning. I used to think I can't, change these things around, and it was starting to feel really stressful. But what I learned was if I just was more flexible in my thinking and I tried not to be a perfectionist, I had much better results. Now, of course, I want to say this right off the bat, the more consistent you can be with intermittent fasting and the more you can just keep it the same every day, the easier it's going to be on your body and it's going to give you better results. But we live in the real world where things get, thrown off. You're going to have things that pop up. And so it's actually better if you can learn how to just move through those situations and be flexible. And then that way you can get back to your normal schedule when life calms back down. So a common scenario you might find yourself in is you need to eat earlier in the day than you normally do. So this might happen, let's say you're doing like an 18-6, which means, let's say every day you've normally been eating between the hours of 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. But then a business lunch comes up and you need to eat at say 12 p.m. So what do? Well, you have several options, but there's two really good ones, I think. The first option is to simply open up your window a little bit earlier than normal, eat the lunch, and then close your window at the normal time. So in other words, that keeps your days more the same. It just means you have a slightly larger eating window. And really, if this type of thing only happens every once in a while, it's really not going to make a difference that you had a little bit longer of a window on this certain day. Now, you do also have another option, which is to open up your window early and then close it a little bit earlier too. So, if you opened it 2 hours early, then close it 2 hours early. So in this scenario, you would just eat between the hours of 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. And this can work out just fine. The disadvantage might be that earlier time, that earlier cutoff time might seem a bit restrictive, like it kind of might mess with your day. So in my opinion, I think it's better just to go ahead and keep your closing window the same because it's not really happening that often and it's just easier. Another scenario you might find yourself in is that you need to eat later than normal. So, this might happen where normally you cut off your eating at say 6 p.m., but on this certain day, you're having dinner with friends and they want to eat at 7. So what do? Well, you have a couple of options. One thing you can do is just push your eating window later in the day. So in a scenario like that, like let's say you're normally eating between 12 and 6, but you need to eat at say 7 and you're thinking, well, we probably won't really finish eating until 9. So all you need to do is, calculate backwards a little bit and say, okay, I'm going to eat today between the hours of 3 and 9. So you just push your first food until 3. Or you can just make your eating window longer again. So just keep your opening at the same time. So 12 o'clock is when you eat your first food, and then you just keep it open until 9 p.m. And so, in this scenario, you have a 9-hour eating window. But again, it's not going to be such a big deal, especially in the big scheme of things. The disadvantage will be that you could theoretically, eat more because you're normally compressing the time down a little bit. So you naturally eat less, but when you have that longer window, you may eat more. And again, if this isn't happening all the time, this isn't going to be an issue. The main thing is no matter which option you choose, make sure it's the one that seems to fit best in your life, the one where you're going to be the least stressed and that fits well so that you can still enjoy yourself. Now, sometimes what happens is that your life just changes. Your schedule changes. Maybe, your spouse gets a different job and now your schedules are different. It might just be that you just need to shift your window a little bit. Like maybe you're doing a 16-8 and that works really well for you, but you need to push your eating a little bit later. And so this is a really easy change to make. Let's say, for example, you were normally eating between 10 and 6 each day, and that was working really well, but now it's going to need to be later that you eat your last food. So you just need to push it a little bit. So maybe between 12 and 8 is when you would eat. You're still doing that 16-8 and you're being consistent with that. You're just, pushing out a little bit. And if you're fairly experienced with intermittent fasting, that change won't be a big deal. You can probably just do it the next day and you're really not going to feel a lot of hunger. If you're new to intermittent fasting and you're trying to switch around your windows, you may want to take it a little bit step by step, push it out to 11 to 7 and then all the way to 12 to 8, depending on just how comfortable you feel with it. Another scenario you might find yourself in is that you just don't like your windows anymore. It might be that, you started out with say a 16-8 and you're really liking that, but then you just kept pushing it for whatever reason. Maybe you were in a rush, you're trying to lose a lot of weight and then you're starting to just resent it. You just don't like it anymore. If you resent it, then change it and go back to what was working in your life. Sometimes it's something really important, maybe you feel like I'm missing out on too many meals with my family. So I want to get back to a more, regular schedule. Or it might be something just you just like to have lunch and dinner. And so it's not going to work for you to have a shorter eating window. Whatever it is, it's no big deal. Intermittent fasting is really flexible. So you just figure out what windows will work for your life. Sit down and figure that out and then make that your new window. It's possible to lose weight on any of the intermittent fasting regimens. Even something like a 12-12 works. The main thing is just learning how to eat the appropriate amount during that window. Another scenario that might present itself is just something that's temporary in your life. Now, this might be people coming in from out of town or going on vacation or, just some sort of short-term thing. Remember, you have the option of just for that short amount of time, figuring out a new window that will work for that particular case, and then going back to the one that you really like, that you really feel like is ideal later on when life calms down. And this a lot of times is what I'll do on vacation. I'll say, okay, I'm probably not going to eat breakfast in the mornings, or maybe I'll do something like I'm going to try to have a 12-hour fasting period before I have my first food in the morning. Again, these are just short-term things and life will go back to normal eventually. And then the last scenario that you may find yourself in is that life gets really crazy. Your schedule is way off, really, really crazy, but you do want to be doing something. Now, you do have the option, as always, of saying, right now, I can't do this right now. And maybe you're going through something really traumatic and it's going to cause you more stress to try to be on some sort of plan than not. And in that case, just give yourself some grace and say, okay, I can't do this right now, but I will get to it eventually. But if you do want to be on some sort of plan, I would offer that it's really easy to just have a simple rule, like a certain number of meals per day and then no snacks. So for example, you could just say 1 meal a day. I like doing that. That's my preferred way of eating. But not a lot of people like to do 1 meal a day. It can feel really restrictive. So instead, you might do 2 meals a day. People call that too mad. Or maybe just 3 meals a day, which is just, the way people used to eat before all the snacking stuff really became common. So you can try one of those, because then you're not even having to worry about, how long has it been since I ate? You're just focusing on the number of meals. And those plans can also help you lose weight. Again, it just goes back to eating the right amount of food so that you're losing weight as opposed to gaining or just maintaining. So I love intermittent fasting and its flexibility. I have found in maintenance, it is certainly very flexible. I like to have a lot of variety in my life. So sometimes I'll do OMAD, sometimes I'll do like a 16-8 pretty consistently. And then other times I'll just do 2 meals a day. But that's the great thing about intermittent fasting, is that it makes it really easy to maintain your weight loss. And you can do it on a wide variety of plans. I think this is because intermittent fasting itself helps you break a lot of the bad habits that lead to being overweight in the first place. Like for me, I was in a really bad habit of emotionally eating, of just snacking out of boredom, just doing a lot of distracted eating, and intermittent fasting helped me quit all that stuff. So I hope that this video helps you on your weight loss journey with intermittent fasting. It's a great thing about intermittent fasting that you can be really flexible with it. And of course, if you take it to the extreme, so much to the point that you're not even doing intermittent fasting, then you may really just gain weight and not lose any at all. But if you use it intentionally and use that flexibility to help make your plan stronger so that it fits into your life instead of trying to fit your life into intermittent fasting, I think you'll find you have really good results. If you'd like more information about intermittent fasting, be sure to check out my book, The Laid Back Guide to Intermittent Fasting. In it, I talk about the way I practice intermittent fasting, which includes being really flexible. It's available as an audiobook, a paperback, or an audiobook read by me on Amazon. The link is in the description. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.